Magomed Ankalaev was able to shut down one of the most dangerous finishers in UFC history, and in today's video we're going to break down some fight clips, see exactly how he was able to do that, and look at what adjustments Alex Pereira could make to win the belt back in the rematch. Yes guys, welcome back to Fight Energy. Hope you're all doing okay and you've recovered from the excitement that was UFC 313, and in fact that's the reason why I'm calling this video the boring genius breakdown of Magomed Ankalaev. Now look, I know it might not be the most crowd-pleasing performance, it hardly set the world on fire, but the way that Ankalaev was able to completely nullify the offerings from Alex Pereira, I know there's a bit of controversy on the scoring, we're going to get to all of that, but the way Ankalaev was able to shut down Pereira's most dangerous weapon, being his left hook, especially for a fighter whose fight IQ had been questioned so much in the build-up to this fight by both me and other pundits and commentators in the space. It was a really special performance by Ankalaev. He was never in any real danger. His striking looked crisper, looked faster than Pereira's, and when he needed to utilise the clinch, give himself a bit of breathing room, he was able to do that as well. I scored this fight 3 rounds to 2. It could have even been 4 rounds to 1. I definitely didn't agree with the people scoring it for Pereira, and we're going to get to why in this video. Now before we take a look at the first fight clip, I think it is worth talking about this fight as a whole. And Alex Pereira, he did start really strong, landing a lot of calf kicks over and over again. But that seemed to be pretty much the entirety of his game plan. Apart from avoiding the takedown, which he did very well, I'm not taking anything away from him there, his plan just seemed to be throwing that leg kick. Throw the leg kick, defend the takedown, and there didn't seem to be anything else. It seemed as though Pereira was so transfixed on this method of victory, just hurting Ankalaev with the leg kick and avoiding the takedown, that his output did look so limited. Ankalaev was beating him to the punch every time. We're going to get into exactly how he was able to do that. Ankalaev looked faster. I know Pereira's never been really fast. It's always been about his timing. But Ankalaev looked a lot sharper, a lot faster. His pressure was immense throughout the whole fight. He was able to front kick Alex so that Alex couldn't close the distance. And this was really important because against a lot of fighters, a front kick is a risky move because they'll grab it and try and take you down. So overall, a very impressive performance by Ankalaev. And I get it that the clinching against the fence, it does frustrate a lot of people. I don't love to see that for minutes on end. But ultimately, it's either up for the referee, based on the current rule set, it's up to the referee to either separate them and get the action going, or for Pereira to get out of these situations. And for too long, he was too hesitant about opening himself up for the takedown that he just allowed himself to be held against the fence. And in fairness to Ankalaev, he was able to get off some knees and do some work in there. But again, I do get it. Clinching against the fence isn't the most exciting tactic. Anyway, let's get into the fight clips and the fight breakdown. And we're going to skip past round 1, which was clearly an Alex Pereira round. He was really effective with the leg kicks. And as I was watching that live, I did think ultimately it would slow down Ankalaev and allow Pereira to get his shots off. But ultimately that proved not to be the case. So we're going to move forward towards the end of round 2 when Ankalaev landed a really clean shot on Pereira. Now if you've seen my breakdowns before, you'll know that I like to go into a lot of detail. And this fight is no exception. In fact, this clip, so much goes on in this clip. We're at 26 seconds left remaining in round number 2. I'm just going to move it forward a few frames. Now, Ankalaev, this is integral to Ankalaev's victory in this fight. And in fact, it's integral to Ankalaev being able to shut down Alex Pereira's offense. This hand, based in a southpaw stance with his right foot forward, Ankalaev's lead hand is able to reach out and touch Pereira's left hand. Now, orthodox against orthodox, this wouldn't be the case because Ankalaev's left hand would be forward instead. But here with his right hand forward, he's just able to touch Pereira's left hand, his most dangerous weapon, that left hook. So Ankalaev knows where that left hook is at all times, able to prepare him if Pereira goes for his patented left hook. In this occasion, he goes for a jab. And again, because Ankalaev knows where that hand is, he's constantly monitoring it with his lead hand. He's able to duck out of the way of that. Keep playing it forward. Pereira throws a sort of a fake knee here and ends up really square. Again, this was really frustrating to watch as a big fan of Pereira. He didn't offer much here, but Ankalaev now comes over the top with a right hand, which is blocked by Pereira's left. And now look at this open, wide open guard. You've got Pereira's right arm outstretched there, his left arm outstretched there, with a big gap in the middle. And Ankalaev just shoots a lovely left hand over the top. Just misses with that follow-up right hand. and charges Pereira back into the fence. This shot coming up, Pereira actually does really well, because if Ankalaev had shortened this left hook, he may have been able to stop Alex here, because Alex was clearly rocked. But Pereira does a great job here. You can see he bounces off the fence, closes up that distance, so that left hook goes to the back of his head. And Pereira knows what to do when you get hurt in these striking exchanges. Clinch up, close the distance, and don't allow yourself to take any more damage. So that's the first clip that I wanted to look at. And just to show the intelligent side of Magomed Ankalaev, just monitoring Pereira's left hand. Their game plan was clearly studied very hard. Avoid that left hook. Now against a southpaw fighter, if Ankalaev keeps his right shoulder high, the left hook is nullified. It's even more nullified with Ankalaev constantly monitoring that lead hand of Pereira. And it was really impressive to see it in this fight. Whilst a lot of people are asking, what's wrong with Pereira? Why wasn't he throwing his left hook? It's because Ankalaev was monitoring that hand. And we're going to see in a clip later on where Pereira does throw that left hand and how Ankalaev responds to it. Okay, so that point that I just made about Pereira's left hook being nullified is actually demonstrated in this clip here. Let me just play it forward a few frames. And the point here is that, as you can see, Ankalaev landing a nice stiff jab on the side of Pereira's head as Pereira misses with a left hook. This might look so simple, such a simple exchange, but it was integral to Ankalaev's victory in this fight. His straight shots were able to get to the target a lot quicker than the looping shots of Pereira. When Pereira did use his jab later on, which is a clip we are going to look at later, he was able to have some success of his own. He really rocked Ankalaev's head back. But for the majority of the first 3-4 rounds, I'll just play it back again. You can see just basic dimensions, mathematics, shows that this straight shot by Ankalaev is going to hit the target before Pereira, no matter how fast, how sharp his left hook is, that jab is going to hit the target before Pereira's hook does. And look, a left hook off a jab is a natural counter. A lot of people use it, but Pereira just doesn't move his head out the way. Ankalaev lands a clean jab. And this is into round 3, which was, in my opinion, and in most people's opinion, the most contested round in the fight. But I think based on what you just saw in that clip and the overall round itself, Ankalaev just had the edge. Pereira was able to land some good shots, but Ankalaev was putting the pressure on him, hitting him with that jab, and didn't allow Pereira to get off his best weapons, and that has to count for something. So let me know if you're convinced yet of my theory of the boring genius of Magomed Ankalaev. If you are enjoying this video, by the way, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below if you think Alex Pereira stands a chance of the rematch. How did you score this fight? And we're about to see another example. What are we in now? Round 4, which I think was a clear Ankalaev round. Again, this right hand just outstretched, just feeling, where is that hand? Where's that hand going? Now, everyone knows about Pereira's left hook. He starts low and then brings it up high. So Ankalaev knows, let's just move it back. Ankalaev knows that when he can no longer touch Pereira's hand, when he dips it low here, he knows that Pereira is about to fire off that left hook, giving Ankalaev plenty of time to dip his head. You can see Pereira's left hook goes way over Ankalaev's head. Ankalaev drops his level, gets a nice position. Pereira defends this really well. Take a look at Pereira's leg here, because this is really important, how he stays on his feet. Again, this isn't just slandering, having a go at Pereira. I do want to give credit where it's due. So Ankalaev has a really nice, pretty deep entry here. I know he's stretched out for this back leg, but as you can see, Pereira lifts up this leg and he does like a donkey kick backwards there. You can see the direction of his knee there. Does like a donkey kick backwards so that Ankalaev is forced to reach up. So he goes from having the leg control to now double underhooks on Pereira, which is a good position. It's a good body lock position, but it's much less of a takedown threat than if he was to have both his arms around both his legs. And then the frustrating part of the round, which is the clinch against the fence. But again, I have to go back to it. It's up to Pereira to get himself out of these positions. And if that means risking being taken down, then you have to do it. In these championship fights, you have to take risks. And I think it comes down to the fact that in this fight, Alex Pereira was just not prepared to take the risks when it came to takedowns. And look, in terms of his takedown defense, at 100% in this fight, it clearly paid off. He even tripped Ankalaev in one of the rounds. But if you know that Ankalaev's just prepared to grind it out against the cage, then Pereira needs to do something more. He needed to risk being taken down in order for him to fully utilize his whole offense, jumping knees, kicking a lot more than he did in this fight. That would have been one way that he could win this fight. But he just wasn't prepared to do that. He was very tentative in his approach, and it had an impact on his output and allowed Ankalaev to take the upper hand. So whilst we're talking about things that Pereira did well, I want to take a look at this exchange in the third round. Again, one of the more contested rounds. So Ankalaev, rather than pumping out that jab with his right hand, he extends for a backhand here. And Pereira pulls back. Beforehand, we saw Pereira keeping his head centre and getting caught with a jab. In this exchange, Pereira pulls back. So Ankalaev's backhand goes over his left shoulder. He pulls back and fires a solid right hand, which has a big impact. You can just see it here. It's a short right hand that has a big impact on Ankalaev, forces him backwards, and Pereira follows up with that left hook, a left shovel hook starting really low. A really nice combination from Pereira. But the fact of the matter is he just did not do that enough. Too many times Ankalaev was able to get his shots off without Pereira firing anything back of his own. But as you can see here, as I just move it back again, this is what Pereira needs to do in the next fight. In the rematch, he needs to do this a lot more. When Ankalaev is being aggressive, he needs to avoid that shot, pull back and counter. There, lovely shot and a combination. Really lets his hands go. And yes, in this exchange, if it had missed with that left hook, Ankalaev could have level changed and got a takedown. But they're the kind of risks that Pereira needs to take in this fight. If he does exactly the same, passive offense, keeps hitting him with a calf kick and doesn't really put his combinations together, then it will just be rinse and repeat. Ankalaev will be able to hold him up against the fence. He might not be able to get a takedown. He probably won't be able to get a takedown because Pereira's takedown defense is really good. But ultimately, it won't allow Pereira to get off his best weapons. So we are moving this video forward to round 5. Because again, there was a lot of the same thing experienced over and over again. Ankalaev was having the better on the feet, getting his straight shots off, hitting Pereira a lot. And the calf kick wasn't becoming so much of a factor in the later rounds. Ankalaev was timing it better. He was getting out the way. Pereira was just throwing that calf kick, throwing single shots. But here, in round 5, when unfortunately it was almost too little too late. Well, it was too little too late. He throws a calf kick, which is partially checked. Actually, that's probably being harsh on Ankalaev. He does check it. Because like I just said, he had the timing of this then. But then immediately off that calf kick, he throws a head kick, which despite Ankalaev's glove that you can just about see there, despite Ankalaev's glove being by the side of his head, let's play that, move that back, it does rock his head. And this was a high scoring shot. You can see Ankalaev, immediately after this, he does take a few back steps. Understandably, he's just been head kicked. And this is where you're screaming at Pereira, go for it now, go for it now. Keep it moving back. And he does. He goes for that left jab, because if you're a fan of Pereira, you know traditionally what follows the left jab. It's the left hook over the top. But Ankalaev just backs off. Pereira allows Ankalaev to circle out, shake off the cobwebs, and then it's just that hesitancy. It's this face had me a bit concerned. I may be reading too deeply into this, but there just wasn't the sense of urgency. Maybe Pereira thought he was ahead on the scorecards, but if he did, he shouldn't have, because firstly, he wasn't, and secondly, the fight was far too close for either fighter to be convinced that they were ahead on the scorecards. But that combination you saw from the calf kick, a left calf kick and then a high right kick, he just wasn't doing enough of that. There was too many single shots, be it his jab later on, which he just threw by itself, he threw it empty, and then the calf kick, which he just flicked and circled off. Again, all these things I think were preventative to stop the takedown. If you slow down Ankalaev's legs, you slow down his movement, prevent the takedown being so much of a threat. But the fact that Ankalaev was just so tough, he was able to withstand those leg kicks from the first round. Pereira should have known at that point that he needed to add something to it. And that left low kick and right high kick combination in the 5th round. If he'd done that earlier, it could have looked like a very different fight. Okay, and the final clip that I do want to look at in this fight is what I believe Pereira should do more of, especially to begin with in the second fight, which is his jab. His jab, which he used to great effect against Khalil Rountree, another southpaw fighter. Again, this is less than 2 minutes left in the fight. He cracks Ankalaev with a nice jab there. Let's keep it playing forward. And even though Pereira is circling round, he's not putting the pressure on. Let's keep it playing. As Ankalaev closes the distance, Pereira steps back and brings Ankalaev onto that jab. Square in the face, big impact. And you can see that Ankalaev felt that one as well. So again, even if he'd been combining his jabs and his low kicks, I think he'd have had a lot more success in this fight. I know that the point of this video was the boring genius of Ankalaev, and he demonstrated that. We don't need to go on and on about that. The fact that he was able to control Pereira's lead hand, stop the left hook being a weapon, and he was able to get Pereira so focused on defending the takedown that Pereira wasn't prepared to risk any kind of takedown, risk getting involved in any kind of negative grappling exchange, which ultimately led to Ankalaev dominating this fight. And that's what it was by the end of it. I know it was a close fight, but I do think that Ankalaev did just enough in most of the rounds other than the first to get the win. So let's talk about what both fighters can do in the rematch, what adjustments they can make for either Ankalaev to win more convincingly or for Pereira to turn things around so that he can win 3-2 on the scorecards or get the knockout. For Ankalaev, it is much of the same. He knows that Pereira only needs 1 or 2 chances with that left hook to get you out of there. So I think Ankalaev needs to stay busy, keep putting pressure on, maybe even use that front kick a lot more, and hopefully ultimately get Pereira down onto the ground. And if Pereira is prepared to risk it more, this could open himself up to Ankalaev getting a finish on him. Ankalaev doesn't have a submission in the UFC, but if he's going to get one against someone, it could well be Alex Pereira. And Alex Pereira, on the flip side, what he needs to do in the rematch is, yes, it's more likely to get him finished, but it's also more likely to get the finish. And it's to show a bit more reckless abandon. Now, I'm not saying that he just needs to be careless and not think about the takedown. Of course, defend the takedown, but maybe look at ways in which he can defend the takedown and then quickly break and fire shots at Ankalaev on the break. I know that I sound like a broken record right now, but it was his focus on avoiding the takedown, which was amazing. He didn't get taken down by a Dagestani. I know he's not a typical out-and-out wrestler, but he avoided getting taken down for 5 rounds against a Dagestani who does train with a lot of wrestlers. It's very impressive. But Pereira needs to throw a bit more caution to the wind, especially if it was that 5th round. The way that he stuck it on Khalil Rountree in, I believe, the 4th round of their fight where he got him out of there, just that relentless pressure. I'm sure if Khalil Rountree will have had the wherewithal to level change and shoot a takedown on Pereira at that point, because Pereira's pressure was so intense, he could have got a takedown there. But Pereira needs to back himself to be able to hurt Ankalaev, head kick him like he did in that 5th round, put the pressure on him so that Ankalaev won't know where he is, let alone be able to shoot a takedown on Pereira. But I just think Ankalaev got his game plan perfect for this fight. I get it, it was boring when he was just clinching him against the fence for minutes at a time, but the work that he did on the feet, he was faster, he was sharper, he was hitting the target more, and the way that he was able to stop Pereira's left hand being a threat at all, in a fairly similar way to Israel Adesanya did for large parts of their first fight. I just found that to be very impressive. Hope you guys enjoyed this video breakdown. We've got a couple of fight night weeks coming up soon, so I'll take a look at what MMA news is going on. Really hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later.